Hey, what's up, coders? This is Derek from the Derek Codes YouTube channel, and I want to show you all about setting up Laravel 8 on your local Mac today using what they call MAMP. And you're probably asking yourself, what the heck is MAMP? MAMP stands for Mac, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. It comes from the fun LAMP stack acronym, which is Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. But these guys over at mamp.info, we're going to go and actually download this free tool, made this possible for Macs. It's really a seamless process. So go over to mamp.info, click on the free download button, and then depending on if you're using an older Intel machine or one of the newer M1 or M2s, go ahead and download your appropriate version. All right, now before we get into actually configuring MAMP to serve up Laravel, we need to install a few other different packages. Primarily Homebrew, if you're not familiar already. This is the missing package manager, as they say, to Mac OS. It's really a great tool to install a lot of different development kind of services that you're going to need as you get into building on your local Mac. So go ahead and copy this code here right on their homepage and paste it into your terminal, and this will actually install Homebrew for you. Just follow the prompts. And then we're going to use Homebrew to install what they call Composer. And we'll get into that in just a moment. Oh, great, that all finished. All right, go back to our web page here and pull up Composer. Now, if you go to getcomposer.org, you can learn more about it. It's a dependency manager for PHP. And using it to set up your Laravel project, it makes it super easy. Long story short, it creates a JSON file that actually defines all the specific versions and dependencies that your project will need. And Laravel has a lot of them. Instead of actually downloading them from their website, we're going to use Homebrew to manage it. So we're back over to our terminal. We're going to type brew space install space Composer. And you can see that it's actually downloading PHP first, version 8, which for this we're going to actually want to, when this finishes, install version 7, because that's what we're using with our version of Laravel. All right, cool. Now Composer's actually installed. You can type Composer, lists all its commands, and then PHP space -v to see the version, and it is indeed version 8.11. So I'm going to use brew again to install PHP version 7.4. Awesome. It's already installed. So what I'm going to do then is use brew to unlink PHP version 8.1, and then use brew to then link PHP version 7.4. Awesome. Now it'll give you some different paths that you can copy and paste into your terminal to export the 7.4 bin directory. So basically where PHP actually lives, that binary file in Homebrew, to your bash profile. So that way when you run PHP -v, it actually will work and actually pull in the correct PHP version. So now that we actually have PHP and Composer installed, or the PHP, the version that we actually want installed, 7.4 for this project, we're going to actually make sure that we're in the directory where we actually want to install our Laravel project, which I made it right off my home directory. You can do what you want. I don't usually put it in like my desktop, for example, because of Mac's iCloud services. You don't want to get syncing all these files. It's a lot of files. It's a lot of disk space. It's going to be syncing it across all your devices. But if that's what you need, then go for it. But I put it in my home directory. From here, we're going to type Composer space create project space Laravel / Laravel. And that's going to be version 8. And we're going to install it into the example app directory. As you can see, it starts downloading everything that it needs here. There's quite a bit of stuff. Perfect. I'm going to list it. I'm going to cd into that example app directory. You can see there's a bunch of different stuff there. I'm going to pull it up in my code editor. Here's all the information that it downloaded to create your project. There's a lot of different meta information in here, and the most important right at the moment is probably this env file. It's an env file, your environment file. And in here, there's a lot of different variables of your database, your passwords, and whatnot, and we're going to actually go ahead and configure that next. Right, let's go ahead and get our database set up and configured. But before we can do that, we actually have to get MAMP up and running. So from your application folder or by searching your Mac, launch the MAMP app, and you'll notice that my version is 7.4 for this specific project. I'm using Apache. The document root, this is where something that you'll need to take note of. Go under Preferences and choose a folder where you installed your Laravel project. Now, I usually start from the base user directory. It's easier to find. I go into my users, my example app here, and you don't serve it up from the base example app that you installed, the base Laravel project. You need to serve it up from the public folder. It's really, really important. Because you serve it up from that base directory, all of your environment file settings, like your passwords and MySQL and whatnot, will be exposed to the public once you take this thing online to a server somewhere. So go ahead and click on public, choose OK. My server was already running, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it first, just to show you how all this works. Go ahead and click start again, and it's going to open up a web browser for you to show you the specific MySQL credentials, which we'll use in just a moment. And this is actually serving up from your Apache web server running on your local machine right now. So it's really, really cool. So here's all your PHP information, MySQL, how to connect. I'm going to scroll down we want to connect via the network. So here's your host, username, password, and port. Those are the most important things that we need. So go ahead and copy this information and go over to your code editor of choice and open up that env file again. So we're going to actually put in the username is root, the password is root, the port number is 8889, and the database, we're going to call it example, just to be fun. All right, go ahead and save that. All right, so then we will pull up any editor that you like to use to connect to a database. I use something called SQL Pro. It's a really handy tool. I already have it set up here to connect to my local host using root and root as the password and port 8889. Go ahead and connect. And then I'm going to add a new database from the top left-hand corner here. I'm going to call it example. The encoding most likely should be UTF-8 as shown here. It's a character encoding that supports a lot of different characters that are used throughout the internet in different languages, so definitely would recommend it. Go ahead and click add, and now your new database is added, right? Go back over to our env file just to make sure database is example, username and password is root, it's connecting to the local IP address, the port number is correct. Awesome. So now what we're going to do is actually have Laravel install all the database tables that it needs to function. So go over to your terminal, and I use pwd to find out the directory that you're in. And I'm in my example directory, and I'm listing all my files, and in here you'll notice a script called Artisan. And Artisan is a command line tool that Laravel built to allow you to run what they call these migrations, which are database transactions to set up and seed databases and create tables and create columns and drop things. That way, when you're working in a distributed team, everyone runs that same migration, everyone gets the same database changes. It's really cool. Artisan actually does a lot of other stuff too. We'll get into that in later videos, so check that out, like creating models and creating controllers and app policies and things like that for keeping things secure. But for right now, we're going to run PHP space artisan space migrate. Oh, I spelled it wrong. There you go. Helps if you can spell. So PHP artisan migrate. As you can see, it migrated all these different tables. It created a users table, password resets, failed jobs, personal access tokens, all stuff that we'll get into later videos. But at the moment, you are completely set up. Laravel has been installed via MAMP, Homebrew, Composer. We actually set up our database. We configured Laravel to connect to that database, and you now have a working installation of Laravel. So let's pull up our browser, go to localhost 8888, and there she is. It's a beautiful thing. And if you're thinking, where did I get this information, localhost 8888, it's in that MAMP app. So if you have any questions on that, go back to that MAMP app, go to preferences, ports, and there's the Apache port. And of course, there's the MySQL port too. So you can change it if need be, but those are the default ports that it had for me in my installation. Awesome. That concludes our video on how to install Laravel 8 on your local Mac using MAMP. Do you have any questions or concerns or comments? Feel free to post those below. I'd be happy to hear whatever you have to say about my video or suggestions for the future. And then also be sure to like and subscribe if you want to learn more, and check out other videos that are in the Derek Codes YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.